Hola compañeros de Ecomun, soy Elske and this is the Ommuurde Tuin. It's the 1 hectare peasant garden where I work, and it's a community supported agriculture. So we have shareholders here, people who get the vegetables and fruits that we grow here every week in their veggie bags. We also sell to local shops and some restaurants. And yeah, we grow here more than 400 varieties of vegetables, fruits, and some herbs on only 1 hectare. And I will show you my farm so that you can maybe be inspired to start something yourself in Colombia. What makes it for me agroecology is that we have many different varieties. So an organic farm, for example, or a conventional farm can have hectares with only one crop, and using chemicals to get rid of the diseases. But here we work along with nature, not against nature. So we have more than 400 varieties on 1 hectare, of 400 varieties of vegetables, mainly some fruits and some herbs, and tubers like potatoes and sweet potato and kinds of carrots and beans. And with so many varieties, you also see that there's a lot of varieties in, for example, the insects, the type of insects. So we have a whole ecosystem here in this place, which also means that we don't really have a pest, because when one disease comes up, when for example there's a bug who likes to eat beetroot, they will be eaten by the birds or by the snakes that we have here, or by other types of insects that like to feed on it. So if you make sure you have an ecosystem, then there will be a balance. Like in nature, you also see a balance. There's not only one thing popping up, because you have a whole ecosystem dynamics, and that's what I feel is really typical of this place. So we are really working with nature and not against nature. The main advantage is that it makes my life very beautiful as a farmer. The work is very nice, it's very diverse. I don't have to weed the whole day one type of crop, but I can do different things. I can harvest the beans standing, I can weed the beetroots like this. There's many things to do, so you don't get bored, but you really enjoy the work. It's really, yeah, beautiful, the work. Besides that, obviously it's very good for the soil. We are building up the soil instead of depleting it. So we work with the compost, and we have many different kind of crops, crop rotation, so that we don't extract too much from the soil. We manage it in that sense. Um, and also, when you have a lot of different varieties, if there is one crop that fails, one yield that fails, you still have 400 other things to harvest. And that's resilience. If you lose one type of crop, or for example, when due to climate change it gets really hot and dry, then there will be other varieties that will survive, and so you still have an income. So for me, resilience and the joy of the work is what I think personally as a farmer are the two big advantages of agroecology. At the moment, we are losing around 22 farms every day in the Netherlands alone, and that is not because farmers here don't have enough technical support, or because they don't have proper roads to transport their food, or because they don't have enough proper education. Netherlands has that all. We're a very modern country in that sense. Country. Um, but the problem is really a financial problem. And what you see happening everywhere in the world is that the costs are increasing, the cost that we have to pay as a farmer. well, the price that we get for our product is very low and often decreasing even more. And that's a struggle. And you see, from the 1950s up to now, we have lost 6 out of 7 farms. That's incredible. It's a lot. And I think that this is the the main challenge we have to tackle. Also, if you talk about feeding the world, it's not about giving food to Africa, for example, because what's really needed is that the people can feed themselves, that we give them the opportunity to feed themselves, so we don't destroy the local markets, for example. And that's what you do by giving food, subsidized food. In our case, we have a crop rotation in the front field, 1 to 10. So it means that, for example, the peas, they are on this field once in every 10 years, and then it turns. So all the time, every year, you see that we plant the crops in another part of the field, and that's called crop rotation. And the reason why we do that is when you have a certain crop, for example, the strawberries, there will be, when you grow them, there will be coming all kinds of diseases in the soil, for example, certain fungi or bacteria. After 1 year, you can imagine these diseases can multiply because there's a lot of food to eat. And if you then the next year and the next year and the next year keep on growing the same plant there, then you'll have them all the time in this soil with diseases, so it's not healthy. So what you can do better is to next year put it on another field. Well, strawberries can be there 2 years, but you already see after the second year there will be more diseases. So it's better to put it in a new soil, um, and then the diseases will not be there. Also, for certain crops, they will ask a lot from the soil. For example, cabbage, they need a lot of nutrients from the soil. So if you will grow them every year on the same plot, you will deplete the soil, and that's not good. So if you make a design, you have to make sure that in the crop rotation you have different families year after year, different families, different varieties that don't have that are not vulnerable for the same diseases like nematodes or fungi or bacteria, and who don't ask too much from the soil. So that's how we design it in a practical way. And how to manage as a farmer. One way is community supported agriculture, and that's what we are doing here as well. So we we have shareholders. So those are people who pay a certain amount of money in the beginning of the year, and that's very nice for us because in the beginning of the year we have the most costs. So we have to pay for extra compost, for the seeds, for the seedlings, to repair some tools, or maybe something broke and we need to fix it. So that's in the beginning of the year. And then these people, they become owner of a part of the yield of the harvest here in the garden. And every week they can collect their part in the veggie bag. And we decide as farmers what should be harvested. So we look at this crop is ready, we can sell it, or maybe we see we really need to take it off the land now because next week it won't be good, and then we have to throw it, and that's a pity. So it's up to us to decide what they eat, or actually it's up to the nature, who decides what people eat. That's the other way around. And we provide the people um, with a nice little story about what's happening in the garden, and what's in the veggie bag, so the names of the vegetables and the herbs or what they get, and a nice recipe. So they people also really learn how to cook again with the seasons and with local food, because yeah, it requires another way of thinking. Going to the supermarket saying, I want a banana, and I want I don't know what, that's out of season. You can get whatever you want for a cheap price, and this is different. This is what is nature offering you at this moment in this place on earth, and you have to make something out of that, a nice recipe. um, and you see that a lot of people in the beginning they experience it as a burden because they lose their choice, but after a while they notice that they're discovering so many things that they never heard of. And they're like, wow, this grows here, and oh, look at the colors and look at all the varieties, and we have blue potatoes and red potatoes, and they never knew it. And then they make something nice and they cook, and they sometimes they invite friends, and the friends are impressed, like, wow, what is this, and they can share about it. And yeah, that's really nice, and that's what you see happening here. We sell these vegetables to our members, and we give a little note with the recipe, so they also eat with the seasons and also discover the beauty and richness of what we can harvest here in the Netherlands in this specific place. What we have seen throughout history, but mainly in the last 100 years of modernity coming in, is that there is a shift from food crops to cash crops. And food crops um, are crops like on this field that feed the family or the community. So you have potatoes and beans and cabbage and kale and lettuce and all kinds of things. And we can um, grow this, we can sell it, but we can also eat from it ourselves. I do that. I hardly go to the supermarket. Because I can eat year round a lot from this garden. Um, but there has been in many places in the world a shift towards cash crops, and cash crops are crops merely to sell, for example, coffee or cotton or soy. And of course you can drink a cup of coffee, but you can't feed your family with that, right? um, and what happens is what you see, that um, cash crops really make you dependent on the world market. Yeah. So there's a it's a really really important difference that food crops, you are um, you can feed it from it yourself, you can eat your potatoes, etc., you can sell. When the prices of potatoes would go down, for example, you still can feed yourself. Yeah. So you are more resilient. But when you are growing coffee or soy or cotton, uh, cash crops, then you have to sell it, and you are totally dependent on the world market to give you money, so that with that money you can pay food. So what happens then if the price goes down? There's nothing to feed yourself anymore, and this is dangerous. And it makes you dependent on the free market, and we all know that the free market, the prices they can go down like this all of a sudden. And then what happens? It's I think it's very very important to not focus too much in only earning money, because it makes you dependent on a system that is not reliable. Obviously, the your conditions are very different than mine. Um, so it's hard for me to say something about agroecology in that sense. But um, I do really believe that agroecology equals um, resilience and autonomy. And I think those two are very important factors. Like I said before, if you find a way to start a project with agroecology, you can at least feed yourself. That it doesn't matter how the world market is going with prices. whatever happens, you have your food, and your community will have your food, your family will have your food. And it's also a way, it's a project of coming together, working together on the farm. It's also about community building, I think. You have many different varieties, many crops. You can celebrate this with nice dinners together, strengthen the local economies. And I think most of the fights that has been going on around the world throughout history has always been about land and about controlling the people. And I think also that's why many governments are trying to control people and trying to destroy um, projects of people who want to become autonomous and to fight for the land for the people and not for the big companies. Um, and they see this as dangerous. Why? Because when you have your own land and you have your own food production, you are independent and you can go your own way in a sense because you are not dependent on the market and you cannot be forced anything because you have what you need right there on the land together to feed yourself and to live.
Very nice. I cook quite well. Today, I cook pork from the other place because they say they cook only, but I don't feel hungry.
um, I have a little gift for you who want to start a life as a peasant because it's the most beautiful thing you can do in life, I think, is to grow food and feed your people. So my little gift for you is some seeds that I grow here on the farm, and I would like to give them to you. And I would be very very happy that you can plant these seeds into the soil. I hope they grow in Colombia, but give it a try. Um, and one seed, it will grow and it will give many more seeds. And this is the richness of the land. So I wish you all the best from my heart, and the seeds are coming to you.